Everybody, Syndicate is now in full force. It's going at full speed, and a lot of interesting new concepts, cards, mechanics, things like fee and bounty and tribute and coins and crowns and all that stuff. And sometimes you kind of wonder, what is the thought process that goes behind the design of a card? And before it even hits PTR, what were some of the interesting concepts or card designs that never really made it to that point? What were some of the cards that were conceived in the developer's mind, discussed, and then thought of as being either too powerful, too crazy, or never made it past the testing stages? And I reached out to Austri and Burja and some of the people in the developers team at CDPR regarding some of Gwent's craziest ideas that never really made it to the actual battlefield. And maybe some of the cards actually went to PTR privately amongst the developers and then realized that it was a little bit too crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and bring you the list of cards that the developers thought were a little bit too crazy to actually bring to Gwent. So again, these are cards that were designed, maybe implemented into the system, tested, and never really hit PTR or the real world. They never really made it out as a card that you can play as just a casual player. Some of the ideas were a little bit out there, and I want to share the card designs and what those ideas were that you never got to play. So again, this is a big thanks to Austri, who gave me a really, really great list, and I want to share it with you here. So the first card that we're going to talk about is Dettlaff Higher Vampire. And we all know what the typical or the current version is, which is it has the death wish of bringing it back, with a timer on it. Now, that is not the original version. The original version of Dettlaff Higher Vampire was deploy, destroy unit in your deck, and boost self by its power. So you get to go ahead and pick a unit in your deck and destroy it, consuming its power essentially. And it also had the benefit of having a death wish of spawn a base copy of that unit. This is insane, and I'm kind of happy that this never made it. The ramifications of this card are just crazy. I mean, you can go into your deck, even if it's something like imagine a play where you played Dettlaff Higher Vampire, you eat a Spear Tip, and then you have a Kayran or a Consume charge to then again eat that Dettlaff to then respawn it. It's an insane combination that would be easily... the comment that I got from Austria was, this would easily be the most broken card in the whole game, and I pretty much agree with that assessment. With things like Unseen Elder or Spear Tip or, Kayrans or whatnot, it would be absolutely devastating in a monster deck. So that's something that we'll never get to see. That was the first one out of the gate that Austria gave me. Next up, Whoreson Senior. Now, Whoreson Senior, we know what it does right now. He's allowed to go ahead and transform a unit or you pay the tribute to transform two, and it's good with crime decks and that kind of whole thing. But Whoreson Senior had an original ability when it was first designed as being all allies with fee ability have insanity. Now, okay, this could be interesting, but it did not make it through to the final version, mainly because, as Austri put it, he said, well, you can create infinite loops with this. For instance, with the Sea Jackal, where the fee ability and the boost, eventually you just can keep hammering that card, where you're boosting and damaging and boosting and damaging with the insanity, and all in all, no dice. So Whoreson Senior is another one of those cards. All right, let's move on to Letho of Gullet. Now, Letho of Gullet, we know, we see what he does today, and that's not his whole gimmick as it was originally designed. Letho of Gullet was supposed to be your opponent cannot play special cards for the duration of their next turn. Kind of like a little bit of a freeze play. If you suspect your opponent is setting something up to play, Scorch, let's say. Well, Letho of Gullet is kind of like a pitfall trap, but for special cards. You already have that with, there are traps that stop specials, but in this case, Letho is kind of like an NG version of it in that regard. Letho slams it down, and he's not, your opponent can no longer play special cards. Now, the comments that I got from Austria about why this never made it, this version, it was basically that it was an initial idea for Letho's ability when card was created back in beta. However, it never saw daylight because at one point it could be weak. Your opponent could not have specials in his hand. On the other hand, there was a question that should this what should happen if your opponent has only specials in his hand? For instance, his last card. So I think it was just a matter of maybe it wasn't exactly the most powerful card. It seemed like something that was either not going to be played very much. It was a very technical card. Not many people are going to play that many specials. So either way, Letho of Gullett never became that card. Now, next up is Sienna, and I don't know if you guys remember back when, before Crimson Curse was discussed, and they had the developer stream, in the PTR, Sienna was one of the cards that a lot of people were very excited about, and it made it to the developer stream where Boja said that there was one card that they had to change because it was absolutely bananas, where they would create a crazy loop of, or a sequence of 5 or 6 cards, or even some crazy loops, where they had to immediately just axe that idea. And Sienna was that card. And many people might not know that, but Sienna originally did not have her ability of triggering deploy effects twice as an order effect. It used to be just an ambient effect. It used to literally just be her passive, where if she sat on the board, all deploy effects happened twice. That could be problematic. That could be that Sienna would then become your rally around card that gained immunity and protection, so that you could just go ahead and rattle off the craziest of chains and reactions and boosts and etc. So in this regard, Sienna deploy trigger abilities twice forever as long as she's on the board. No dice. She did make it to Crimson Curse PTR, but eventually she got nerfed down to an order ability, and she has her place here and there. But for the time being, she has to reside in that order ability category. Okay, here's another one. This is a card that isn't exactly a card that exists, but it was an idea for a card. It was an unreleased special card called Gale's Painting. Now, Gale's Painting would read, transform all cards in your hand and deck into random ones of the same color. Now, this is the ultimate RNG fiesta, and this is kind of the big meme that some people might have used to play in other card games where that kind of card transformation is prevalent. A lot of the times, though, you can probably get messed up, but in other times, you're going to get some real crazy cross-faction synergies that might break the game. The comment that Austria gave me on this one as to why it never made it is basically, it was a card tailored for Arena, but as you can guess, it was actually too crazy to introduce it. Now, is it too crazy strong, too crazy unreliable, obviously, because you're going to be making a deck full of random cards? Or was it just too crazy because the idea, the concept of playing something of all randomness and being, in the odd case where this could be a very competitive idea, I mean, that's nuts. It feels like the Gale's Painting, there's no provision attached to this card. I didn't get any actual stats for any of this, but that could be just absolutely devastating. All right, next up, Roche Merciless. Roche Merciless would have originally had the deploy effect of give all units in your hand and deck the Temeria category. So it made everything Temerian. That's fine, that's cool. A lot of, you can get some Temerian synergies going on, but the original idea for this was to have that as the effect, but it got axed by the developer team based on the comment from Austria saying, it was during beta when every Temerian was growing from Blue Stripe Scouts. So this is something that I had to do back in before some changes were made. Seems like it was too strong to release, so we changed it completely. Well, now you know what the new Roche does, and it's fine how it is, I suppose, regardless. That is another one that we're going to go ahead and just kind of pull the plug on. So unfortunately, Roche Merciless, adios, goodbye. Now here's the final one, and this is the only one that's really a leader ability. And this had to do with Ardal. And we all know what Ardal now is. That it deals with tactics, seizing units. An interesting type of kind of control. Nonetheless, Ardal was originally pegged as the ultimate control leader. We know what Radovid used to be, locking 2 units, dealing damage, that kind of thing. Ardal was everybody's crazy nightmare. It was tagged by the developer team as the ultimate control leader. Ardal's ability was going to be, as an order effect, lock all units in your opponent's hand for 2 turns. Everything in your opponent's hand becomes essentially whatever, like a vanilla version of whatever it was. It was just stats. Nothing was going to be able to be played. It was going to be just, you have 2 turns to just drop stuff, and your synergies, your interactions, your deploy effects, everything was locked out. Ardal was there to just freeze your opponent and force him to just drop vanilla cards. That was, as you can tell, probably going to be more frustrating than Usurper is today, or any type of lock effect, because it really just, it handcuffed you for 2 full turns to just go ahead and dump cards that you hope were enough to sort of push through. Go ahead and make your assumptions as to how this could be best played. You'll never see this leader, I suspect. It was completely axed back before it hit the board, obviously, but it was called the ultimate control leader, and Austri commented and said that your opponent would have to play points without ability for 2 turns. We quickly changed our mind on that one. So that one didn't even make it too far out of the gate before it was put out of its misery. But there you go. There are some really, really interesting cards that never saw the light of day, other than maybe, Sienna, who might have had a PTR appearance for a brief time before people realized that she is out of control, bananas. So that is it, friends. I know that there's probably going to be a whole lot of other cards that you guys conceive in your own minds, and here's an idea of why some of these cards are not going to make it. Thank you so much to Borja, Austria, everybody at the developers team for giving me this list, especially with so much detail. And thank you so much for watching, and you can always go ahead and catch me on Twitch, twitch.tv/WatchFlake, Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And if you like what you see, go ahead, drop your comments here in the comment field here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. It's free. It means the world to me. And I will see you very soon. Be kind to one another, and adios.